since day one, I have had nonstop issues with this C33 Laurel and its RB25 swap. That sounded so cool when I bought it, but now it's literally just been an electrical mess, and I think I've been able to drive the car all of 3 times without it actually breaking down on me every single time. I literally have been towed in this thing like 700 times. I ran out of AAA tows 3 times, but that all changes today, because right here is a Wiring Specialties Pro Series harness built fully custom for this car with that engine and that Link ECU. I personally couldn't be any more excited about this, so let's dive in. But before we can just slam this wiring harness straight into my car, you know, we gotta get rid of some old friends. And those old friends being our old garbage wiring. I mean, this wiring is so horrible. I took it to a shop and it still didn't fix the issue because I personally don't mess with wiring. I don't know about you guys, but I'll turn wrenches all day long and probably break stuff in the process. But when it comes to wiring, I'd like to stay as far away from it as possible. But at least Wiring Specialties made it insanely easy by labeling every single piece on this harness. So maybe even an idiot like me, an unintelligent individual like myself, could handle putting this wiring harness on. But whether I can actually do it or not, that's remains to be seen. All right, we're back. I don't know how well you guys can see this, but we're making a little bit of progress, you know? Fighting with these connectors is absolutely miserable. Every single time that I get in there, it's just a disaster. And all of these connectors, they just don't want to leave their homes. And unlike bolts, you can't spray WD-40 on this shit to get it loose. You just kind of gotta, I don't have any picks, so I'm just using where's that? I lost it, but I had a flathead, and that's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm just getting in there with the flathead and trying to make it happen, but shit ain't pretty. Shit ain't sweet. It's ain't for the faint of heart. You gotta be built like an absolute machine to take off a wiring harness. Starting to make some pretty solid progress here. Almost the entire harness here is disconnected. We're just gonna have to grab this thing and then shove it down there through the grommet, and then obviously we're gonna have to disconnect it from the ECU, and then we can yank this whole thing out of here. But let me just show you guys how awful this harness really is. I mean, most of the wires in this thing look like this. I mean, I don't know if you guys can see just how awful that is, but I don't know if the camera's focusing, but it literally looks like it was lit on fire and then covered in oil. This shit is actually tragic. All right, so like I said before, all we really need to do is hop inside, disconnect the ECU, and then we should be able to yank the old harness. So yeah, let's get after it. And just like that, bang, ECU removed. And the rest of that mess is ready to get yanked out of the firewall, so we don't have to deal with it anymore. I'm honestly kind of surprised at how easy this is. I thought this would be a lot harder. I had a lot of people acting like this was big shit, but honestly, if you've built like a simple computer before, wiring harnesses are not that complicated. I might regret this sentence later.
Few moments later.
It's been about 5 minutes and I'm ready to eat my words on my previous statement. Getting this shit out of the firewall is not chill. I literally destroyed the grommet. You can see like pieces of it on the ground because I got a new one with my wiring harness, so I figured it's whatever. Dude, those connectors are not coming out. I'm gonna need someone else to like slowly feed the wires through the firewall as I pull on the harness. Otherwise, that shit is literally never coming out unless I chop it in half, and I'm not gonna cut my harness because I'm not a psychopath. All right, so after much consultation with the internet and a lot of struggling, I've made the executive decision to just cut the harness because honestly, I don't want to deal with this shit. And doing it the right way is bullshit if I'm replacing the whole harness anyway. Now, I've taken some precautions in order to make sure I don't cut any like the chassis harness. I'm making sure that this is just the loom that goes to like the engine, you know what I'm saying? So hopefully I don't fuck anything up and have to buy some more shit. I probably will, but we're cutting this bitch. All right, this thing is coming out whether it wants to or not. We're ripping this down out of here, so. All right, old harness is out. Hopefully we didn't cut anything important. If we did, I'm totally screwed, but on the bright side, I should be going to Japan in a couple months, and if I really need something, I can just get it from a junkyard there, where these cars are actually pretty common. So, I guess all we gotta do now is get into the ECU game, and then start looking at this new wiring harness, because once this thing's wired up, I'm still gonna need to buy a gasket and a grommet before I can start it now that I messed that other shit up, but we're in business, guys. This thing is never gonna run better than it will after all this shit. The hardest part is spending the money, The second hardest part is trying not to break anything in the process, and we've clearly failed at that. All right, we're back for another day, and it is cold as shit in my garage. I think it's all of 10 degrees outside, and my diesel heater is currently fighting for life. But besides that, let me give you guys the rundown on the plan for today. So, right here, we're gonna pull this intercooler piping out because we need to weld in a bung for my air temp sensor. Because if we don't weld in a bung for that, then there's no real way to install it. And if we don't have that, we can't convert this thing to speed density, which is what basically deletes the mass airflow sensor that's in here, this thing. Because I've gone through like 5 of those, and every single time, I'm just sick of dealing with the problems, you know what I mean? So once we're on speed density, we should be in business, but we are gonna have to drive down to Accurate Fabrications in order to get that welded in, because Nils is the GOAT, and yeah, he knows what's up, even if I have no clue how to do that kind of shit, so. Car's all loaded up. Fun fact about this Saab, the blower motor stopped working today, so we don't have any heat, and I think it's 6 degrees outside, so this will be a fun ride. 45 minutes in the car real quick. Wish me luck. Now, to the untrained eye, it might appear that I just went to Dunkin' Donuts. But in fact, this is a very important bargaining chip. See, we're gonna see if we can get Nils to accept 1 hot medium coffee with 2 creams and 2 sugars in exchange for the welds on my intake piping. Will he probably accept it? Who knows? But we're about to find out. So, let's get out of the car and see if he bites on it. And check it out. Bung is fully welded in and ready to screw in our air intake temperature sensor. And Nils gave us a complimentary coupler for the one that we completely shattered the other day. So we're gonna hop back in the car. We're gonna head back down to the garage. And we're gonna get this thing set up properly. So we honestly might even be able to get the car running today, which is crazy. All right, so it's finally time to start wiring this thing up. But before we do, I just want to show you guys how much better this harness is than that one. I mean, look at this thing. I don't think there is a single piece of this harness that's not destroyed. I mean, there's whole connectors that are just completely taped off. Look at that. That's not all right. This whole harness was genuinely garbage. And not to mention, how the hell are you supposed to keep track of this? This is actually nightmare fuel. Like, looking at that makes me sick to my stomach. But good thing our replacement harness looks nothing like it. Now, to some people that may seem concerning, like they might have got the wrong one, but I think this one just cut out a lot of the BS that the other one, you know, has in there because it was just some junkyard harness that some crazy dude in Japan swapped in. So, I mean, just look at this, bro. Everything is labeled. This harness is gorgeous, bro. And I think even an idiot like myself can probably handle wiring this thing up. But whether that's true or not, we're about to find out. So I'm gonna set you guys up on a time lapse and we're gonna get down to business. So that kind of went horribly wrong, but I got a plan with a double zip tie and some saran wrap on that connector there. If you ain't ever double zip tied, you ain't ever been desperate. So let's get down to it. You're probably noticing right about now that I'm in different clothes now. And it's not because I randomly decided for a wardrobe switch up. It's because it's the next day and I was fighting with that piece of wiring harness for well over 6 hours. But it doesn't matter anymore because we have fully squeezed all of the connectors that need to go through the firewall, and we're in business, which means we can finally get down to actually wiring the car up and not just sitting here like an idiot just trying to desperately fit an ECU connector through. So the war is over. I mean, kinda. I still don't know where half of these wires go, but we're about to figure out real soon. So. Let me show you guys what I'm working on. So even though I am a massive idiot, I still want to do this harness some justice because it's way too nice. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to tuck it, you know, along here a little bit. I'm gonna try to put it under that ridge there. And we're gonna see if we can get this looking pretty smooth. Because if we're gonna have a harness this nice, it shouldn't just be like all over the engine bay, super messy. I want this thing to look pretty good, you know? We're putting a lot of heart and soul into cleaning up this disaster of a swap. I think we ought to do it somewhat the right way. Obviously, we've cut a couple corners, including a harness, because we didn't pull that out, we snipped that shit. So yeah, we're trying to do a little justice here. So we're gonna try to keep it organized, it's gonna look nice, and yeah, I'm gonna get back to work. We got the car almost fully wired up, which means it's time for us to move on to the next step. That being our standalone ECU. And we got only the best for our JDM ship box. A Link G4X GTT plugin that's literally just gonna pop straight into our old ECU housing. So, we're gonna unblue those little 4 screws, we're gonna pop this thing in there, and we're gonna get this car running right. So let's do this. And there it is. Ignore that creaking noise. Bang. Link ECU fully installed and ready to go. So now, we just really need to finish wiring up the chassis interface harness here. Just kind of just dangling. And then we got to install our new knock sensors. I really can't think of much else. We got that gasket to slap on there, and we're honestly just waiting for that. So sorry this video, I've been like 900 different wardrobes. It's because I'm just trying to get this all together, but I'm not exactly a professional YouTuber, so I can't exactly throw together a full build in a week. So this has taken quite a bit of time. But you know, you can't really argue with the facts, and we're gonna get this done. Now, when I wire all this up, will it actually work? Is a great question. And honestly, I don't have the answer for you. So we're just gonna have to see and find out. Before we can start this car up, we do need to wire up our battery to our starter motor so that the charging system is complete and the car can actually draw power and start. Now to do that, we're gonna need a power cable to run from our positive on the battery to the starter motor and a negative to run to the ground. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. We're completely out of money. So, in order to accomplish this, we're just gonna take our old lower harness that's entirely held together with duct tape, brittle plastic, and, well, not even duct tape, electrical tape, brittle plastic, and zip ties, and we're gonna dismantle it, single out our old power cable, and then just run it straight to the starter motor and throw the rest of it out, because we're out of money, and we don't have any other options. You know, guys, sitting here dismantling this wiring harness, I'm starting to realize that the previous owner might have spared every single expense when he was building this car. You know, when people are all like, the previous guy spared no expense. This car is an absolute dream, you know, it's the most solid build you'll ever see. Well, this is the exact opposite because, I mean, you can't see it from there, but this harness is an absolute mess. I don't even know how you could use this much electrical tape. Like, this dude must have used 9 rolls. He must own an Ace hardware store in order to be acquiring this shit. He's buying it wholesale from Alibaba. He's getting it by the pallet because, holy shit, dude. This thing is locked down like Fort Knox. There's nothing pulling this harness apart. There it is. Now I'm sure there'll be some joker in the comment section that's like, oh, that's not any electrical tape at all, dude. My entire car, I actually built it. Custom built. Custom fabricated with only electrical tape and zip ties. That's how I built it myself. And you, guy in the comments, are the asshole that builds cars like this that need to have everything redone on them. Stuck in my engine bay. Oh, dude, I got the knock sensors out and the O2 sensor.
Did you have the socket? What'd you do?
So I went and bought deep sockets and a 1/2-inch ratchet. But like, dude, this is the remnants of my O2 sensor. It's still spilling battery acid or whatever the interior is. So when I bought a deep socket to go over it,
Smashed it on.
no, when I bought a deep socket to go over it, it didn't reach. It still didn't reach. And then even after I cut the wires, it didn't reach. So what I ended up doing is I took a Dremel to it. Yeah. And that didn't work either. I think I snapped 17 blades. So after snapping 17 blades, I took these loppers.
How'd you keep those in there?
I took these loppers and I got him in there, you know, psycho style, because I'd been at it for like 4 hours, and chopped this bitch in half. And then once I chopped it in half, I was able to get a deep socket over the O2 sensor and spin her off. No problems.
Hey man, if you got it off, it worked.
Dude, these are the next big thing, Jackson. Loppers in the engine bay.
What did you do, lift the car up?
Nope. Right on top, dude. Here, yo, Jackson pulled up and he brought gifts. Are you kidding me? What do we got here, Jackson?
Big power washer, and then we got some BC Racing coilovers for the Corvette going on.
Oh yeah, dude, look at those.
Yes, sir.
No more monster truck fitment on this piece of shit.
Chill out, dude, chill out.
All right, dude, check this thing out, though.
Yeah, dude, little power up.
Scariest power wash. Yo, what you know about that?
Hold on. Oh, we got
This
right,
is draft.
this might take
This ain't
more.
no pony tool.
This might take more than
This box, dude. This is a serious
It's
power
actually
washer.
70 pounds, bro.
We're
It's
stripping
beefy.
the paint off Jackson's Corvette with this thing. Sorry, you guys are getting blinded by the light of a
It's
llama
getting
in
a whole
the
new
snow,
paint
dude.
job anyway, so it's fine. Doesn't matter.
Is it, dude? We're stripping all the paint off it. We're doing carbon fenders on this piece of shit. Basically, what we're gonna do is this connector. It's gonna go here, and then wherever the other side of it is here, it's gonna go down there. I don't know if you guys can see it. Bang. And then once we do that, our charging system will be fully wired up, and this car will be good to start. Well, assuming we have the negative grounded too, and we hook up our 5-point grounds. But that's what's next on the chopping block. With most of the heavy lifting out of the way, wiring harness in the car, ECU plugged in and ready to go, all that's left to do is throw this thing back together and add a couple sensors from Link that are gonna make this thing run a whole lot better. The first sensor we're gonna install is by far the easiest. It's our wideband, and it's literally just sitting right here and ready to go right into the downpipe on this car. Now, I technically should have a bung welded in lower in the exhaust to put it in the optimal place, but we're not gonna do that. We're just gonna put it right where the old O2 sensor was. Installing this thing is insanely simple. It's the same thread pitch as the stock O2 sensor, so it just threads right up. And then that cable runs down and into the firewall. And bang, it's in place, and I threaded the wire over these hard lines over here so that we don't end up, you know, melting it. Now, next up on the chopping block is the knock sensors. Now, these ones were a little bit more tricky because I actually had to purchase some thread adapters for the block. So I'll show you guys how these things work. It's pretty simple. They just, if I could ever get this one out of the bag. Basically, the thread pitch is not the same on the block as it is with the knock sensors. So this small piece here goes into the block, if it'll focus. This small piece goes into the block, and then this piece goes between the two and then holds the knock sensor to the smaller piece. So we're gonna thread these both in, and the knock sensors should be in place. Knock sensors into place, which means it's time to move on to doing something a little bit more involved. We're gonna have to take our old intercooler pipe and put it back in so we can reinstall the J pipe so that we can install our intake air temperature sensor. And then this thing's pretty much ready to go. Now, putting this thing back together is honestly one of the best feelings I've ever had in my entire life, because this thing, I do talk a lot of shit about it, but honestly, I love this car so much. Being able to drive it is gonna be crazy considering all the time, effort, and money I've been putting into this thing. I've never even really been able to enjoy one full drive in it without getting stranded, so this should be cool. But you guys probably didn't notice, I've been tightening this bolt down like crazy because let me tell you, sports fans, having one of those things fly off mid-boost, having your intercooler pipe in leave the chat, it's not for the weak. I had it happen in my Audi TT once, sold it shortly after. I'll tell you that. Yeah, that thing was a disaster, but hopefully this thing will be reliable now. So let's continue, shall we? Now, I can't fully reconnect the J-pipe yet because we do still have to do spark plugs before we go and get the car tuned, but I just want you guys to get the idea of what the plan is. See, the intake air temperature sensor is just gonna go right into this bung. It's gonna go plug and play with our wiring harness right here, just right across, plug right in, and we're gonna be in business. I mean, everything is really starting to come together. Now, obviously, like I said, I can't plug it all in yet, but everything's starting to come together, and it's actually beautiful. And that's pretty much a wrap. With all the sensors except the map now installed, this thing really just needs a tune. almost an entire month, I have been waiting for this little box to show up at my door. I'm pretty sure it got lost in shipping like 3 or 4 times, but it all doesn't matter anymore because today, we're gonna try and start the car. Since last time I updated you guys, a lot has happened. We've got pretty much everything back together in the engine bay, and we finally chose a spot and mounted the map sensor, because I guess that used to be like a boost gauge location, so it was pretty much just a fully unused port on the intake manifold. Because this car's swapped, we never had the boost gauge to begin with, so we kind of lucked out. I'm not even gonna waste any more time. I'm just gonna jump straight into putting this thing back together. All right, so I didn't record me putting it all back together because those Japanese gaskets are insanely brittle. They're actually made out of the thinnest paper on planet Earth, so I was not about to risk waiting 4 weeks to puncture the gasket. So everything is now in place. We got our map sensor mounted. Everything else is hooked up. Now all that's left to do is grab a laptop and try to fire this thing up. There's no easy way to put this. Something terrible happened. So as you can see, we got the laptop here. We were just about ready to put the base map on this car and start it up. And then I realized that one of my wires, particularly the one for the intake air temperature sensor, so this wire right here, was not pinned into the ECU. So we had it crimped and I was ready to put it in, but when I went to take off the ECU connector, I realized that because I'm a massive idiot, I over-tightened the 10mm bolt into the ECU connector, which means there's no easy way to say this, but it's almost impossible to get that thing off. Like the ECU connector in here, on that ECU, which you can't see because it's really dark, is just spinning infinitely. The 10mm bolt is spinning infinitely. And I've been at it for probably a collective of 3 or 4 hours now, just wrenching on it in different ways. I disconnected a load of the wiring harness, like literally all of the clips from over here, all of the clips that I had, injector harness, coolant temp sensor, VVTI, literally all of it disconnected so that I could get more room in there so that I could work on that ECU a little bit easier. But it all doesn't even matter because this 10mm bolt in here will not come off. I mean, I've been going ham on it with the 10mm ratchet, just doing everything I can, putting pressure on it in different directions, trying to walk the connector out, but nothing really seems to be working. So I think I might need to get an electro ratchet and slap that on it, but I don't even have one of those, and those are insanely expensive. I honestly don't even know what to do. I've been at it for hours, and I'm gonna see if I can find somebody that knows what to do, or if they have an electric ratchet. I'm gonna get a buddy out here, but it's looking pretty grim, guys. You know, it's been a lot of hours, a lot of days getting to this point, and getting this far just to be stopped by one singular pin is seriously depressing. So I guess I'll update you guys if something else happens and things start to go a little bit better, but there's nothing else I can really do about it right now. It's finally here. In this little envelope right here is the final piece to the puzzle so we can get this car started. So let's get inside and check it out. All right, look, there she is. It's finally today. This thing's finally getting revived today. So, let's tear into this thing. Okay, so the last time I updated you guys, I was completely distraught because frankly, I thought it was game over. The bolt in my ECU is stripped into place, and I thought there was nothing we could do about it until I learned about this right here. So what we're looking at is a link expansion loom, and basically how it works is this 5-piece connector is gonna plug straight into the ECU, and then all of these wires right here, that'll focus. There you go. All of these wires right here are open leads. So basically, they're just extra inputs that we can use to run to more sensors in the car. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that one little wire that's in there, the IAT wire, and we're just gonna strip back some of the wire on this, splice the two together, do a little bit of unventilated soldering, and then, yeah, our IAT should be reading and this car should be good to start up. So let's get into it. Now the job should be relatively simple. It's just 4 Phillips head screws on the side of the ECU. You guys probably can't even see it down there because it's so dark. And then we're just gonna plug that thing in and get down to business. So I'm gonna start taking these screws off. I can't even show you guys really because it's kind of dark down there. So I'll update you once I have the panel off and the leads plugged in. All right, so we got it all hooked up and I got a flashlight on it so you guys can kind of get an idea of what we're looking at here. All this spaghetti of wires is actually a good thing. Even though it might look confusing, they're all coming out of this one cable right here. I don't know if you can see it. It goes into the back of the ECU. But that just connected right in, and now we can wire up our IAT. As you guys can see, we got the wires spliced up in there, so now all we have to do is solder those two together and then slip that piece of heat shrink right there over the top, heat it up, and this thing is ready to go. I tell you guys what we're not gonna do. Definitely not gonna solder with lead in the unventilated garage. Fortunately, that's a joke. It's 26 degrees outside, but we're just gonna have to do it. I don't want to have an early grave or anything. What I don't have is a heat gun. What I do have is a lighter. So I'm gonna heat up that heat shrink and shrink it and shit. So yeah. All right, I guess all that's left to do is turn the key. Dude, my heart is pounding so fast right now. I can't even make this up. I know I feel like such a loser, but a lot of time and money has come up to this point. So I'm gonna set you guys up right here. And this thing is gonna hopefully start. Well guys, there's no real easy way to say this. The car didn't start. But I'm fairly sure the reason the car didn't start is because the timing offset, like for the ignition timing, isn't quite right. So that's just what I'm gonna pray for, and I'm just gonna have a tuner look at the car, try to set the timing right, see if they can get it going, and that's gonna be it. But unfortunately, that's gonna be the end of this video. I know the ending's a little bit anticlimactic, and I just wanna thank you guys so much for tuning in to what is my first major YouTube video. I know it was probably really sloppy and hard to get through, but if you stayed to the end, I really, really appreciate you, and I promise that every single video after this one is only gonna get better. So stay tuned, I'm gonna keep working hard.